Dorset once formed part of the old country of Wessex, a term that fell into disuse many centuries ago and was almost forgotten. The name conjures up a picture of bare, wind-swept downs and frowning cliffs, of wide plains or green river valleys. There are numerous reminders of ancient days, stone circles and primitive hollows that once formed dwelling places for the early hillmen. A dolmen called the Hellstone consists of 9 upright stones supporting a horizontal one, 11 feet long, 2 feet thick. Nearby, the ancient stone circle known as the Ninestones is to be found off the main road at Winterbourne Abbas. Although the stones are small compared with those at Stonehenge and Avebury, they are quite significant and prove that prehistoric man lived on the downs many thousands of years ago. The Agglestone near Studland has puzzled many generations, for it weighs over 400 tons and stands on top of a high hill. Evidence of the Roman era is plentiful, and one of the best examples of Roman central heating is to be found in a villa at Dorchester. The fire was lit in an outhouse, and hot air was carried under the stone floor and up numerous chimneys around the outer walls of the house. No doubt, a country being so rich in building materials found a great attraction for our early ancestors, and was the reason why the area was so thickly populated. Today, the stone industries flourish, and stone is still in great demand. Portland is one solid block of limestone, some 4 miles in length. Many of our famous buildings, such as St. Paul's Cathedral, were built from Portland stone, and it is not surprising that great use has been made of it locally. Taking 23 years to build, Portland Roads, one of the largest and safest naval harbors in the world, could scarcely have been built had it not been for the abundance of suitable material on the spot. At Portland Bill, the prominent landmark of the lighthouse warns ships at sea of this treacherous point. Further along the coast at Hope Cove, the picturesque ruin of Rufus Castle guards one of the few approaches from the sea. The Chesil Beach, a long, monotonous ridge of pebbles some 18 miles in length, connects the peninsula of Portland with the mainland. Near Portland, the stones are largest in size, but the drift of currents continually drives them further and further towards the mainland, so that in a few years, stones weighing 10 or 12 pounds will become small pebbles weighing only a few ounces. At the other end of the beach, standing boldly on a hill, is St. Catherine's Church, a landmark that brings us to Abbotsbury and the only swannery in Europe. It contains some 1,200 birds and originally belonged to a monastery in the village. Many were fattened for the table, for prior to the introduction of turkey, roast swan was a popular Christmas dinner. Little remains of the abbey except for this old monastic barn. The fine range of buttresses and the splendid masonry make it one of the most notable buildings of its kind in the country. Buildings play an important part in the Dorset landscape, and one most typical picture is the old mill pond in Swanage, reflecting grey, moss-grown stone houses in its quiet waters. Even today, many of the new housing estates are being built with local stone. One of the most popular types comes from the Purbeck quarries. The stone is hewn out by hand as no blasting is necessary. The seams run in different directions, giving blocks of various sizes. All that is then necessary is the final squaring up. Every Shrove Tuesday, the Quarries Guild meets at Corfe, where apprentices are admitted as fully fledged members. All they have to do is to get from the Fox Inn to the hall opposite with a loaf of bread and a bottle of beer. That's easier said than done, as the other quarrymen are there to stop them and to enjoy the spoils. It's little wonder that in days gone by, several contestants found themselves spending the night in the old lock-up at Swanage, apparently built for the prevention of vice and immorality by the friends of religion and good order. More drastic steps were taken at Tolpuddle, when 6 farm labourers were sentenced to transportation in 1834 because they had formed a trade union and were deemed guilty of conspiracy. There are various memorials to these early pioneers, including an arch outside the Methodist church, unveiled by the late Mr. Arthur Henderson. Down the road is the cottage where they held their meetings. It was occupied by Thomas Standfield, one of the 6 labourers. As a further memorial, these 6 cottages were erected by the TUC, each one bearing the name of a martyr. The only one to return was James Hammett, who now lies in the churchyard, a pioneer of trade unionism and a champion of freedom. Another famous man in Dorset was Lawrence of Arabia. In this simple and unpretentious cottage near Wool, E.T. Lawrence lived the last few years of his stirring and adventurous life. In Greek over the door are the words, "Nothing matters." Time couldn't have mattered to George Burt when he cut the great globe out of Portland stone. It stands on Durlstone Head, weighs 40 tons and is 10 feet in diameter. On it, in slight relief, are the chief divisions of the Earth's surface. Massive slabs provide a variety of information on the Earth, Sun, Moon, and stars. 2 large slabs are also provided for those who feel they must leave their information behind. Information of a different kind is to be found near the customs house at Lyme Regis. On a board outside, it tells of the tolls payable when landing nearly everything from a ton of cordage to a carriage and pair. Another one of the interesting entries is that for every trunk, chest, box, or bag per barrel bulk, and so on, in proportion, 4pence. Yes, a tariff of olden days when Lyme Regis was a busy harbour, quite unlike today with its numerous small craft and fishing boats. The Cove, the curious stone pier, quay, and breakwater, for it partakes of the functions of each, was first erected in the 11th century. About the same time, the main defences of Corfe Castle were constructed by Edward I. The ruins, as such, are magnificent, and in its construction, full advantage was taken of the peculiar, if not unique, formation of the natural mound on which it was placed. The castle walls follow the crest of the hill, which descends almost vertically on 3 sides. The towers seem to be leaning at all angles, due to the explosive force of parliamentary gunpowder in 1646. Lulworth Castle was not destroyed by gunpowder, but by a fire in 1929, and so one of the finest Jacobean mansions in the country is left in a state of ruin and desolation. The castle was formerly occupied by Thomas Weld, an ardent Catholic who gained the friendship of George III. He asked permission of the king to build a chapel, which he granted on condition that it was built in the form of a temple. It was the first Roman Catholic church to be built openly in England since the Reformation. Though of curious shape, it is most beautiful, and must have given untold joy to the people of that faith who had been suppressed for so long. One of the most remarkable features of a very remarkable coast is Lulworth Cove. It is a fairy-like inland sea, a miniature Mediterranean, almost shut out from the ocean and surrounded by lofty chalk cliffs. The basin is almost a complete circle, a natural phenomenon that has been formed by the action of the sea on the receding chalk. Not only is Lulworth famous for its cove, but also for its lobster teas, which add to the many attractions of this delightful spot. Further on, in a little bay, is the Durdle Door in Barndore Cove, Barndore being an alternative name for the natural arch formed in the Purbeck limestone. It is large enough for a good-sized boat to pass through, It's over 40 feet in height. It is sites like these that make the seacoast Dorset's main attraction. Its varied, picturesque beauty make it a close rival of Devon or Cornwall. And with its unequalled interest, it is a country to which one wants to return again and again.